A distress call from the stars. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the stellar horizon, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling purple anomaly that filled the ship's main viewport. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything the universe had to offer. She was wrong. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension coursing through the bridge. Dr. James Harrison, the ship's chief scientist, looked up from his console, his silver-streaked hair reflecting the ethereal glow of the anomaly. "It's definitely artificial, Captain. The energy signature matches nothing in our database, but the pattern is too regular to be natural." And, he hesitated, the distress signal is still coming through. Sarah remembered the moment they first picked up the signal 3 days ago, a haunting melody of mathematical sequences that could only be intelligent in origin, broadcasting on frequencies humanity had barely begun to understand. The kind of discovery that could make or break a career in the space exploration course. "Play it again," she ordered. The bridge filled with a series of rhythmic pulses, rising and falling in complex patterns. The crew had heard it dozens of times now, but it still sent shivers down their spines. Lieutenant Maya Patel, their young communications officer, spoke up from her station. "Captain, I've made progress with the translation matrix. It's not just a distress call, it's an invitation." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "An invitation?" "Yes, ma'am. They're asking for help, but they're also welcoming us." The message keeps repeating phrases that translate roughly to "come" and "join" and "save." The captain drummed her fingers on the armrest of her command chair. Standard protocol for first contact situations was clear: observe, report, and wait for instructions from Earth Command. But Earth was 6 months away at maximum speed, and something about this signal spoke of urgency. "Dr. Harrison, what's your assessment of the anomaly? Can we survive passage through it?" The scientist adjusted his glasses, a habit he fell into when deep in thought. "Based on our readings, it appears to be some kind of artificial wormhole. The math suggests it's stable, but," he shrugged, "we'd be the first humans to attempt transit." Sarah stood, walking closer to the viewport. The purple swirls seemed to beckon, promising mysteries and wonders beyond human imagination. Or perhaps death in the cold void between stars. The weight of command pressed heavy on her shoulders. "Engineering report." Chief Engineer Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm. "All systems nominal, Captain. If you're thinking what I think you're thinking, the Horizon can handle it. She's the toughest ship in the fleet." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Horizon was indeed special, the first of her class, designed specifically for deep space exploration. If any human vessel could survive this journey, it would be this one. She turned to face her crew, seeing the mix of excitement and apprehension on their faces. "I want everyone's input. This isn't a decision I make lightly." Maya spoke first, her dark eyes shining with enthusiasm. "We're explorers, Captain. This is what we signed up for." The scientific possibilities alone. Dr. Harrison gestured at his readings. This could advance human knowledge by centuries. One by one, the bridge crew voiced their agreement. Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was why she'd handpicked each of them. They shared her drive to push boundaries, to venture into the unknown. "Very well," she announced. "Battle stations. All hands prepare for anomaly transit. Lieutenant Patel, send a message buoy back to Earth Command. Let them know we're answering the call." The next few minutes were a flurry of activity as the crew prepared for the unknown. Shield generators hummed to full power, sensors recorded everything for posterity, and the ship's AI ran countless simulations of possible outcomes. As they approached the anomaly's edge, Sarah felt the familiar calm of crucial moments settle over her. "Take us in, helm. Nice and easy." The stellar horizon glided forward, its silver hull reflecting the purple light. The anomaly's edge reached out like tendrils, embracing the ship. Sarah felt a slight vibration through the deck plates, heard the engines strain against unknown forces. "Engineering reports all systems holding steady," Rodriguez called out. Whatever this thing is, we're handling it. The vibrations increased, the viewport filled with swirling colors that hurt the eyes. Warning indicators flashed as the ship's sensors struggled to make sense of their surroundings. 30 seconds to transit completion, the helm officer announced, his voice tight with concentration. Sarah gripped her chair tighter, silently willing her ship and crew through this moment. The bridge lights flickered, gravity wavered, and for a heart-stopping moment, everything went black. Then, with a flash of light that left afterimages dancing in their vision, the stellar horizon burst into normal space. The viewport showed unfamiliar stars against the backdrop of space, and directly ahead, a planet that glowed with an otherworldly blue radiance. "We made it," Maya whispered, breaking the stunned silence. But before anyone could celebrate, the ship's AI spoke in its calm, measured voice. "Warning. Unknown energy signature detected. Ship's systems experiencing unexpected interference. Main power output declining." Sarah's eyes widened as she felt the deck tilt beneath her feet. "All hands, brace for emergency procedures. This isn't over yet." The stellar horizon, humanity's greatest exploration vessel, began its uncontrolled descent toward the mysterious glowing planet, carrying its crew toward a destiny none of them could have imagined. The azure world. Sarah Chen's consciousness returned slowly, accompanied by the sharp taste of copper in her mouth and the steady beeping of medical equipment. She forced her eyes open, expecting to see the familiar white ceiling of the horizon's medical bay. Instead, she found herself staring at what appeared to be living crystal, its surface pulsing with gentle blue light. "Captain's awake." Maya Patel's voice came from somewhere nearby, filled with relief. Sarah tried to sit up, fighting against waves of dizziness. A firm hand helped steady her, Dr. Harrison, sporting a bandaged head but otherwise appearing intact. "Easy there," he cautioned. "We all took quite a beating during a landing, or should I say crash." As her vision cleared, Sarah took in their surroundings. They weren't in any kind of medical facility she recognized. The rooms seemed to be grown rather than built, with organic curves and flowing lines. Medical equipment unlike anything she'd seen monitored their vital signs, projecting holographic displays that shifted and changed like schools of fish. "Report," she managed, her voice rough. "Where are we, the crew?" "Everyone survived," Maya answered, stepping into view. "Some injuries, but nothing critical. As for where," she gestured to a window-like opening in the crystalline wall. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Outside stretched a landscape that defied explanation. Towering spires of the same living crystal rose into a sky that shimmered with auroral lights. Between the structures, gardens floated in midair, connected by bridges that seemed made of pure energy. And moving among it all "We're calling them the Azure," Dr. Harrison explained, following her gaze to the tall, ethereal beings gliding through the air outside. "They rescued us after the crash. Their technology, Sarah, it's beyond anything humanity has ever dreamed of." The aliens were vaguely humanoid, but seemed to shift between solid and energy forms at will. Their bodies glowed with the same blue light that permeated everything on this world, and they moved with a grace that made them appear to be dancing rather than walking. "Have we established communication?" Sarah asked, her mind already racing with protocols and procedures. Maya nodded enthusiastically. "They're telepathic, Captain. They can't exactly speak to us, but they can project images and emotions. They've been waiting for us." Before Sarah could process that information, one of the walls rippled like water and 3 azure beings entered. The tallest of them approached Sarah's bed, its form solidifying into a more definite shape. The alien's features were delicate yet alien, large, luminescent eyes, no visible mouth, and patterns of light that swirled beneath its translucent skin. A wave of warmth and welcome washed over Sarah's mind, accompanied by images of stars, ships, and what she somehow knew represented humanity's potential. The sensation was overwhelming, but not uncomfortable. They call themselves the Guardians of the Nexus, Maya translated, her voice filled with awe. This planet, it's not just their homeworld. It's a hub, a crossing point between different regions of space. That anomaly we pass through, it's one of thousands they maintain. Dr. Harrison stepped forward, his scientific curiosity evident. They're showing us their history. They've watched countless civilizations rise and fall, guided some, protected others. But now, he frowned, concentrating on the stream of images. Now they need our help. The Azure being, the Guardian, raised what might have been an arm. The entire room transformed into a three-dimensional star map, showing vast networks of wormholes connecting different sectors of the galaxy. But throughout the display, points of darkness spread like cancer, consuming the lights of civilizations. The void, Maya whispered, translating the overwhelming sense of dread that accompanied the images. They call it the void. It's eating the galaxy, consuming entire civilizations. The Guardians have fought it for millennia, but they're losing. Sarah watched as the display showed the darkness spreading, unstoppable, inevitable. Why us? She asked, the question directed at their alien hosts. Why did you call humanity? The answer came in a flood of images and emotions. Humans fighting against impossible odds, adapting, surviving, innovating. The Guardians had watched humanity's progress, seen something in them that other species lacked, a combination of determination, creativity, and sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. They believe we have something they need, Dr. Harrison explained, his voice tight with excitement. Our unpredictability, our ability to find solutions where none should exist. They think we might see something they've missed in their fight against the void. The Guardian moved closer to Sarah's bed, extending its hand. In its palm formed a small crystal, pulsing with the same blue energy that powered their civilization. The message was clear: an offer, an alliance, a chance to fight for the galaxy itself. Sarah looked at her crew members, saw the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. This wasn't what they'd expected to find when they answered that distress call. They'd come looking for first contact and instead found themselves drafted into an ancient war for survival. She reached out and took the crystal. The moment her fingers touched it, knowledge flooded her mind. Technical specifications for weapons and defenses far beyond human understanding, strategic data about the void's movements, and most importantly, hope. The Guardians' hope that humanity might be the key to turning the tide. Well, Sarah said, struggling to her feet despite Dr. Harrison's protests, I guess we'd better get to work. Maya, contact the ship. I want damage reports and repair estimates. Doctor, start analyzing everything they can tell us about this void. We need to understand what we're up against. As her crew rushed to comply, Sarah turned back to the Guardian. The alien's form rippled with what she somehow knew was approval. Through their mental connection, she received one final message, clear and distinct. The time of observation is over. Now begins the age of alliance. Outside, the azure sky continued to shimmer with aurora, but now Sarah saw it differently. Not just beautiful, but vital, one of the last bastions of light in a galaxy growing steadily darker. And somewhere out there, the void was coming. But first, they had a crashed ship to repair, a crew to heal, and an alien technology base to understand. Humanity's greatest adventure and greatest challenge was just beginning. The Crystal Archives. 3 weeks into their stay on the Azure world, Sarah found herself standing in what the crew had nicknamed the library. Though calling it merely a library felt like calling the ocean a puddle. The vast chamber stretched impossibly in all directions, filled with floating crystals that contained the accumulated knowledge of countless civilizations. Captain, you need to see this, Dr. Harrison called from his workstation. The scientist had barely slept since gaining access to the archives, his usual neat appearance now disheveled from countless hours of study. Sarah navigated through the holographic displays floating around them. Other crew members were scattered throughout the chamber, each focused on their assigned areas of study. Maya worked with a group of Azure instructors, perfecting her ability to communicate telepathically. Chief Rodriguez had practically moved into the technology section, absorbing everything she could about their advanced engineering. "What have you found?" Sarah asked, reaching Harrison's station. He manipulated the crystal interface with practiced ease now, bringing up a series of complex diagrams. "We've been thinking about the void all wrong. It's not just consuming space, it's consuming time." The display showed various star systems being enveloped by darkness, but as Sarah watched closely, she noticed something disturbing. The areas consumed by the void didn't just disappear, they seemed to never have existed at all. "It's unmaking history," Harrison explained, his voice trembling with the implications. "When it consumes a civilization, it doesn't just destroy them, it erases them from ever having existed. The only reason we can see records of the lost worlds is because of the Guardian's quantum archives." A familiar sensation of warmth touched Sarah's mind as one of the Azure approached. They'd learned to recognize individual Guardians over the weeks. This one was called Unity, or at least that's how Maya translated the complex emotional signature it projected. Unity's form shifted, creating a detailed representation of the galaxy. Points of light marked surviving civilizations, connected by the wormhole network. But the dark patches of void were more numerous than Sarah had realized, spreading like cracks in glass. "The barriers are failing," Maya translated, joining them at the station. "The Guardians have maintained quantum shields around protected sectors for millennia, but the void is evolving, finding new ways through." Sarah frowned, studying the display. "How long?" The answer came in a wave of images, 3 planetary alignments. 3 months, Maya confirmed. "That's when the largest shield barrier will fail. If it does, the void will have access to the most densely populated sector of the galaxy, including Earth." The weight of this knowledge settled over the group. They'd come so far, learned so much, but time was running out. The Horizon's repairs were nearly complete, thanks to Azure technology, but what good was one ship against something that could erase existence itself? "Show me the shield designs," Sarah commanded. Unity complied, filling the air with technical specifications. "Rodriguez, get up here." The chief engineer arrived quickly, her eyes widening at the displays. She'd picked up the Azure's technical language faster than anyone, showing an almost intuitive understanding of their technology. "The shields operate on a quantum entanglement principle," Rodriguez explained, studying the diagrams. "They don't just block the void, they actively maintain the reality of protected space against quantum dissolution." She paused, her expression changing. "Captain, I think I see something." The next hour was a blur of technical discussions, with Rodriguez and Harrison bouncing ideas off each other while Unity provided additional data. Sarah watched in amazement as her crew, in mere weeks, began to grasp concepts that had taken the Azure millennia to develop. Finally, Rodriguez stepped back from the displays, her face flushed with excitement. "The Guardians have been trying to hold back the tide with a wall. But what if we turn the shield inside out? Instead of creating barriers, we create quantum anchors, points of absolute reality that the void can't unmake." Unity's form pulsed with rapid color changes, surprise, consideration, hope. The Guardian quickly shared the concept with others, and soon the chamber was filled with Azure beings, all studying the human proposal. "It's like," Harrison searched for an analogy, "instead of building a dam to hold back a flood, we're creating islands that can't be submerged. If we place them correctly, we could create a network that would naturally channel and contain the void." Sarah watched as Unity and the other Guardians ran simulations of the concept. The results were promising, not a complete solution, but a new approach that had never been tried in all their aims of fighting. "How soon can we test it?" Sarah asked. Rodriguez consulted with several Azure engineers through their developing telepathic link. "We can modify one of the Horizon's quantum cores with a new configuration. Small-scale test within 48 hours. "Make it happen," Sarah ordered. She turned to Unity, feeling the Guardian's approval and something else, surprise, perhaps even pride. The Azure had watched humanity for centuries, hoping they might help, but even they hadn't expected such rapid innovation. As her crew dispersed to begin work on the prototype, Sarah remained in the archive chamber, studying the galactic display. The darkness of the void seemed to pulse, as if aware it was being watched. Somewhere in that impossible darkness, entire civilizations had been unmade, their hopes and dreams and histories erased as if they'd never been. But humanity had entered the game now. They'd brought with them something the Eternal Guardians had begun to lose over their long vigil: the ability to think sideways, to see old problems with new eyes, to imagine impossible solutions and then make them real. The test would work or it wouldn't. They would find a way to stop the void or they wouldn't. But standing there, surrounded by the accumulated knowledge of ages, Sarah felt a fierce pride in her species. Humanity had been invited to play in a game of cosmic chess, and they'd responded by suggesting they flip the board. Unity approached again, sharing an image that made Sarah catch her breath. Earth, seen from space, its blue oceans and white clouds pristine and beautiful. The message was clear. This was what they were fighting for. Not just humanity's future, but its past and present as well. "We won't let you down," Sarah promised, both to Unity and to the distant home she could no longer see. The Guardian's response filled her mind with warmth, confidence, and something that felt surprisingly like family. The game was far from over, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But for the first time since the Guardians began their eternal watch, the void had something new to contend with: human ingenuity. And that might just change everything. Trial by void. The modified quantum core hummed with an otherworldly resonance as final preparations were made aboard the stellar horizon. Chief Rodriguez moved around it like a dancer, her movements precise and deliberate as she adjusted crystalline components that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "Final diagnostic complete," she announced, her voice tight with focus. "The quantum anchor is stable and ready for testing." Sarah stood at the bridge viewport, watching the swirling energies of the test site. They'd chosen a small section of space already touched by the void, a region where a binary star system had once existed. Now it was just nothing. Not darkness, not empty space, but a complete absence of existence that hurt the eyes to look at. "All personnel are at battle stations," Maya reported from her console. "The Azure support vessels are in position." 3 Guardian ships flanked the horizon, their crystalline forms pulsing with protective energies. They'd insisted on being present for the test, though Sarah suspected it was as much to contain a potential disaster as to offer support. Dr. Harrison's voice came over the comm from the science lab. "The quantum measurements are off the scale. Whatever happens, this is going to be interesting." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Trust a scientist to call a potential reality-breaking experiment interesting. She pressed the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. If it works, we may have found a way to fight back against the void. If it doesn't," she paused, "well, let's make sure it works." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They all knew the risks. A miscalculation could tear a hole in reality itself. But the alternative, watching helplessly as the void consumed everything they'd ever known, was unthinkable. "Begin power-up sequence," Sarah ordered. The quantum core's hum deepened, resonating through the ship's hull. On the auxiliary displays, complex mathematical formulae scrolled past as the ship's AI managed the delicate balance of energies. "Quantum anchor at 25% power," Rodriguez reported. "Structure is holding steady." Sarah watched the readings carefully. This was the easy part. They tested the anchor at partial power in the safety of the Azure shipyards. Now came the real test. 50% power, beginning quantum entanglement. The viewport showed strange distortions in space as the anchor's influence spread. The very fabric of reality seemed to ripple like heat waves over hot pavement. 75% power. Quantum field is stable, beginning final power-up. Sarah gripped her command chair tighter. Take us to full power, Chief. The ship vibrated as the quantum core reached maximum output. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Maya gasped. "Captain, look." The section of void they were targeting changed. It didn't vanish or retreat. Instead, it seemed to flow around something invisible, like water around a stone. In the center of the affected area, stars began to shine, not new stars, but the original binary system, pulled back into existence by the anchor's power. "It's working," Harrison whispered over the comm. "The anchor isn't just blocking the void, it's restoring what was lost." Excitement rippled through the bridge crew, but Sarah kept her focus. Status of the quantum core. "Holding steady," Rodriguez reported. "All systems nominal. The Azure designs merged perfectly with our technology. We could maintain this indefinitely." Through their telepathic link, Sarah felt waves of astonishment from the Guardian vessels. In all their eons of fighting the void, they'd never managed to reclaim what it had taken. Yet here was proof. Humanity's adaptation of their technology had achieved the impossible. But before they could celebrate, alarms blared across every console. "Multiple void surges detected," Harrison shouted. It's reacting to the anchor." The restored section of space flickered like a bad transmission. The emptiness around it seemed to writhe, taking on shapes that shouldn't exist in normal space-time. The void isn't just mindless entropy. Maya translated the urgent messages from their Azure allies. "It's conscious, and we just got its attention." Sarah's mind raced. They hadn't expected this, hadn't prepared for the void to actively fight back. "Rodriguez, can we increase power to the anchor?" "Not without burning out the core. We're already at maximum safe levels." The ship shuddered as waves of unreality battered against their shields. The Azure vessels moved closer, adding their power to the horizon's defenses. Through the chaos, Sarah noticed something strange. The void's attacks weren't random. They were probing, testing, almost like, "It's learning," she realized aloud. "Every attack is different because it's analyzing our defenses." She hit the comm. "Harrison, are you recording all this?" "Every quantum fluctuation," he confirmed. "The patterns are fascinating, but if we don't disengage soon..." "No," Sarah interrupted. "Don't you see? This is better than we hoped. We're not just testing our technology, we're learning how the void thinks." Understanding dawned on the faces of her crew. They hadn't just created a weapon against the void. They'd created a way to study it, to understand their enemy for the first time in history. "Rodriguez, begin power down sequence," Sarah ordered. "Nice and slow. Let's give our guest time to show us all its tricks. Maya, make sure the Azure are recording everything from their perspective too." The next 10 minutes were tense as the quantum anchor's power gradually decreased. The void continued its attacks, but with diminishing intensity as the restored space slowly faded back into non-existence. The void strikes back. The Azure Command Center buzzed with activity as holographic displays showed the unthinkable. The void was moving faster than ever before. What should have taken months was happening in weeks. The quantum shields protecting vital sectors of space were failing one by one. "It's using everything it learned from our test," Dr. Harrison explained, his face illuminated by the glow of multiple data streams. "Every defense we showed it, every technique we used, it's adapted to counter them all." Sarah stood at the center of the command hub, surrounded by both human and Azure analysts. The past week had been a blur of activity as they raced to analyze the data from their quantum anchor test, but the void had been faster. "How long until it reaches the Earth sector?" she asked, dreading the answer. Maya, now fluent in Azure quantum speak, translated the complex calculations floating before them. "At current rates of expansion, 36 hours, maybe less." The news hit the human crew like a physical blow. They'd known they were racing against time, but this was impossible. The void had never moved so purposefully before. "We awakened something," Rodriguez said, voicing what they all feared. "When we proved we could restore lost space, we became a threat. Now it's not just consuming reality, it's hunting us. Unity, their azure ally, approached a central platform. The Guardian's crystalline form pulsed with urgent patterns of light as it shared a complex series of images and emotions. Maya translated rapidly. The quantum shields are failing faster than they can be repaired. Traditional defenses are useless now. The void, it's learning exponentially. Sarah studied the galactic display, watching darkness spread like spilled ink across the stars. But something about the pattern caught her attention. It's not random, she realized. Look at the expansion pattern. It's creating something. Harrison rushed to adjust the display parameters. As the view shifted to show quantum energy flows rather than physical space, a pattern emerged. The void's expansion was forming a massive spiral, with Earth's sector at the center. It's not just hunting us, Harrison breathed. It's trying to trap us. Cut off all possible escape routes before moving in for the kill. The command center erupted in frantic activity as Azure and humans alike recognized a strategy. The Void had learned not just defense from their encounter, but tactics as well. Options, Sarah demanded. Rodriguez stepped forward, her engineer's mind already racing. The quantum anchor worked, but it was too small scale. We'd need hundreds to create an effective defense network, and we don't have time to build them. What about the horizon? Sarah asked. Could we modify the entire ship to act as one massive anchor? The chief engineer's eyes widened at the suggestion. The power requirements would be astronomical. We'd need to channel enough energy to light up a small sun. Unity suddenly pulsed with intense light, sharing a rapid series of technical specifications. The azure around them responded with their own patterns of light, a quick debate happening in quantum concepts too complex for human minds to fully grasp. They have a way, Maya translated, her voice rising with excitement. The Azure City itself, it's powered by a quantum core the size of a small moon. If we could link the Horizon's systems to their planetary grid, we'd have enough power, Rodriguez finished. But the modifications required, even with Azure help, it would take days we don't have. Sarah felt Unity touch her mind, sharing not just information but a feeling, trust, confidence, and something else. An image formed in her thoughts, the Azure's quantum archives, containing the accumulated knowledge of countless civilizations. What if we didn't modify the ship? She asked slowly, an impossible idea taking shape. What if we modified time itself? The room fell silent as both humans and Azure grasped her meaning. The quantum archives didn't just store information, they stored quantum states. Theoretically, they could be used to. It's never been attempted, Harrison warned. Using the archives to create a temporal loop, the energy requirements would be even more massive than powering a quantum anchor. But it would give us the time we need, Sarah pressed. We could take as long as necessary to modify the horizon, then return to the exact moment we left. Unity's form shifted rapidly, consulting with other guardians. The discussion that followed was intense, their light patterns almost too rapid to follow. Finally, Unity approached Sarah, extending a crystalline tendril. The message was clear. They would help, but the risk was enormous. One mistake in the temporal calculations, and they could erase themselves from existence as thoroughly as the Void could. How long would it take to set up the temporal loop? Sarah asked. 2 hours, Rodriguez estimated. Maybe 3 with safety checks. Sarah looked at the galactic display again. The Void's spiral pattern continued to grow, cutting off sector after sector. Their enemy was intelligent, adaptable, and now seemingly unstoppable. But it had never faced humanity before, had never encountered a species willing to bend the laws of reality themselves to protect what they loved. Begin preparations, she ordered. I want everyone who's not essential to the time loop operation evacuated to the Azure City. If this fails... She left the sentence unfinished. They all knew the stakes. The next 3 hours were a blur of activity. The Horizon was moved into position above the quantum archives, its systems linked to the vast energies flowing through the Azure City. Harrison and Rodriguez worked with Guardian engineers to calculate the precise equations needed to create a stable temporal bubble. Sarah stood on her bridge, watching the final preparations. The void's expansion was visible now even without sensors, a darkening of space that crept steadily closer to their position. "Time loop calculations complete," Harrison reported. "Ready on your order, Captain." Sarah took a deep breath. They were about to attempt something even the Eternal Guardians had never dared. Begin temporal sequence. The ship hummed with power as energies beyond human comprehension flowed through its systems. Outside, the quantum archives began to glow with impossible light. "Temporal field stabilizing," Rodriguez called out. 15 seconds to loop initiation. Sarah felt Unity's presence in her mind, offering strength and guidance for what was to come. The Azure had protected reality for eons, and now they were entrusting their future to human ingenuity and courage. 10 seconds. The void's spiral pattern seemed to pulse, as if sensing what they were attempting. 5 seconds. Sarah gripped her command chair, her voice steady as she gave her final order. "Take us back." The universe twisted, folded, and rewrote itself around them. The impossible gambit had begun. Beyond the impossible. The temporal loop worked better than anyone could have imagined. What felt like months passed within their bubble of altered time, while outside, mere seconds ticked by. The stellar horizon underwent a transformation that defied conventional physics. Under the combined expertise of human ingenuity and Azure technology, the ship became something new, a hybrid vessel that existed simultaneously in multiple quantum states. Its hull now rippled with living crystal, merged seamlessly with human alloys in ways that should have been impossible. "Final system check complete," Rodriguez announced, her voice carrying the weight of exhaustion and triumph. The engineering chief had worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of what both human and Azure technology could achieve. The bridge itself was barely recognizable. Crystalline growths merged with traditional controls, creating an interface that responded to both physical commands and telepathic impulses. The crew had adapted, learning to operate in this new hybrid reality. "Quantum core network is stable," Harrison reported from his modified science station. "All 16 anchors are synchronized and ready for activation." Sarah stood at the center of it all, her captain's uniform now interwoven with lines of living light, a gift from the Azure, allowing her deeper connection to both ship and crew. Through it, she could feel the Horizon's new heartbeat, the pulse of powers that humankind had never meant to wield. "Time alignment in 3 minutes," Maya called out. "The temporal bubble is beginning to collapse." They had achieved the impossible. The Horizon now housed 16 quantum anchors, each more powerful than the prototype they'd tested. The ship's very structure had been redesigned to channel and control energies that could rewrite reality itself. Unity stood beside Sarah, the Guardian's crystalline form now permanently linked to the ship's systems. The Azure had given everything they had to this project, sharing secrets they'd kept for millions of years. "Show me the void's current position," Sarah commanded. The main viewport transformed, displaying the galaxy in quantum relief. The void's spiral pattern had grown, now encompassing nearly a third of known space. At its center, Earth's sector pulsed like a heartbeat, still protected but increasingly isolated. "Time bubble collapse in 2 minutes," Maya announced. "The void, it knows we're here. It's reacting to our temporal signature." Through her enhanced perception, Sarah could feel it, a malevolent awareness pressing against the edges of their protective bubble. The void had indeed learned from their last encounter. It had been waiting for them. "All hands to battle stations," Sarah ordered, her voice carrying through both traditional comms and the ship's new quantum network. "What we're about to attempt has never been done in the history of the universe. But humanity didn't get where we are by playing it safe. The plan was audacious to the point of insanity. They would use the Horizon's quantum anchors not just to block the void or restore lost space, but to create a cascade effect, a chain reaction of reality reinforcement that would ripple through the galaxy. 1 minute to bubble collapse, Maya reported. All Azure support vessels are in position. A fleet of Guardian ships surrounded them, their crystalline forms pulsing in synchronization with the Horizon's new systems. They would add their power to the attempt, focusing all their accumulated knowledge and technology into one desperate gambit. "Chief Rodriguez," Sarah called. "Are we ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be, Captain." The engineer's hands danced over controls that blended metal and crystal. All power systems are at maximum. The quantum cores are stable and synchronized. "Dr. Harrison, calculations I've triple-checked. If this works, the cascade effect should spread faster than the void can adapt. If it doesn't," he left the alternative unspoken. 30 seconds. Sarah felt Unity's presence in her mind, offering not just support, but a deep well of knowledge accumulated over eons. Through their link, she could sense the other Guardians as well, all of them united in this moment. "Remember," she told her crew, "whatever happens next, we've already made history. Humanity reached the stars, met advanced civilizations, and instead of cowering before cosmic horrors, we found a way to fight back." 10 seconds. The void's presence grew stronger, its awareness focusing on their position like a predator sensing prey. 5 seconds. Sarah gripped the command rail, feeling the ship's power thrumming through her enhanced uniform. "Prepare to initiate quantum cascade on my mark." 3, 2, 1. The temporal bubble collapsed. Reality reasserted itself with a shockwave that rippled through space-time. The void's spiral pattern writhed, its darkness reaching for them with hungry tendrils of unreality. "Now," Sarah commanded. 16 quantum anchors activated simultaneously, their power amplified by the Azure fleet. The Horizon's hybrid systems channeled energies that could have powered a small galaxy, focusing them through carefully calculated quantum matrices. Space itself seemed to scream as two impossible forces collided. The void's darkness met walls of pure reality, hardened and reinforced by human determination and Azure wisdom. "Cascade effect initiating," Harrison shouted over the ship's groaning. "The quantum matrices are holding." Through her enhanced senses, Sarah watched in awe as their plan unfolded. From the Horizon's position, waves of reinforced reality began to spread. Where they touched the void's spiral pattern, space literally crystallized, becoming immune to unmaking. But the void fought back. It launched attacks they hadn't seen before, trying to disrupt their quantum matrices, probing for weaknesses with an intelligence that seemed to grow more focused by the second. "Power fluctuations in anchors 7 and 12, Rodriguez reported, her hands flying over controls. "Compensating." Unity's form pulsed with effort as the Guardian helped stabilize the failing anchors. The Azure fleet poured more power into their effort, their ships glowing like newborn stars. "The cascade is working." Maya's voice was thick with emotion. "Sectors 40 through 65 are stabilizing. The void, it's being pushed back." Sarah watched through human eyes and quantum senses as their desperate gambit began to turn the tide. The void's spiral pattern was breaking up, its carefully planned trap disrupted by forces it had never encountered. But victory wouldn't come easily. As more space crystallized, the void's attacks grew more desperate, more creative. It began targeting individual ships in the Azure fleet, trying to break their support network. "We're losing Guardian vessels," Harrison reported grimly. "The void is adapting to the cascade effect faster than we calculated." Sarah felt Unity's urgent warning through their link. The void wasn't just fighting back. It was gathering itself for one massive counterattack. If it succeeded, no amount of quantum anchors would save them. She had seconds to make a decision that would affect the fate of the galaxy. "All power to the forward anchors," she ordered. "We're going straight for the heart." Her crew looked at her with a mixture of fear and determination. They understood what she was suggesting. a direct assault on the center of the void's spiral pattern. If it worked, they could end this now. If it failed, helm, take us in, full quantum drive. The stellar horizon surged forward, its hybrid systems pushing the boundaries of what should have been possible. Around them, the surviving Azure fleet moved to provide coverage, their ships forming patterns of sacred geometry passed down through millions of years. The void's darkness loomed before them, deeper and more absolute than the space between galaxies. But now, for the first time in cosmic history, that darkness held a hint of something new. Fear, light in the void. The stellar horizon plunged into darkness that shouldn't exist, its hybrid hull blazing with the combined power of human determination and Azure wisdom. Inside the ship, reality itself seemed to strain against the laws of physics. All quantum anchors at critical output. Rodriguez shouted over the groaning of stressed systems. We can't maintain this level of power for more than a few minutes. Sarah stood at the command center, her enhanced uniform pulsing with streams of living light. Through her connection to the ship's systems, she could feel the void's presence pressing against them from all sides, an intelligence vast and alien, finally facing something it couldn't simply erase. Status of the cascade effect, she demanded. Harrison's fingers danced across his crystalline console. The quantum crystallization is holding in the outer sectors. Nearly 40% of affected space has been stabilized, but the void, it's concentrating its power here, at the center. Through the viewport, they could see nothing but absolute darkness. Not the darkness of space, which still held the promise of distant stars, but a complete absence of everything that made reality possible. Maya's voice carried an edge of awe and terror. Captain, I'm detecting patterns in the darkness. The void, it's trying to communicate. Sarah felt it too, through her quantum-enhanced senses. The entity they faced was reaching out, not with words or thoughts, but with concepts that threatened to overwhelm human consciousness. Unity stepped forward, the Guardian's crystalline form resonating with ancient power. Through their shared connection, Sarah understood what had to be done. It's not enough to fight the void, she announced, her voice steady despite the strain. We need to understand it. Maya, can you translate? The communications officer nodded, her training with the Azure proving invaluable. I'll try, Captain. The patterns are, it's showing us its origin. The darkness around them shifted, forming images that existed more in their minds than in physical space. They saw the beginning of the universe, but from a perspective they'd never imagined. The void hadn't been born of darkness, it had been born of light. It's a survivor, Harrison whispered, comprehension dawning. From before our universe. When reality as we know it formed, it was left outside. The revelation hit them all. The void wasn't destroying reality out of malice, but out of a desperate attempt to return existence to a state it could inhabit. Every galaxy, every star, every moment of time it consumed was an attempt to recreate its lost home. All this time, Sarah breathed, the Guardians thought they were fighting a force of destruction, but they were really facing a refugee from a dead universe. Unity's form pulsed with shock and understanding. Through their link, Sarah felt millennia of assumptions being rewritten. The Azure had spent their entire existence fighting something they had never truly tried to save. But the void's communication carried something else, a warning. It couldn't stop. Even understanding wouldn't change its nature. This universe, with its solid matter and linear time, was poison to its existence. It would continue to consume and unmake until nothing remained. Power levels critical. Rodriguez called out. The quantum anchors are starting to fail. Sarah felt the ship's systems straining to maintain their pocket of reality against the void's presence. They had minutes, maybe seconds, before their defenses collapsed. Then, through her connection to Unity, an impossible idea formed. The quantum anchors, she said, they don't just reinforce reality, they can restore it. But what if we reverse their polarity? Harrison's eyes widened. Create a space where both forms of existence could coexist. Captain, the power requirements would be, we'll have one shot. Sarah's voice carried absolute conviction. Rodriguez, prepare to redirect all power from the ship, the Azure fleet, everything, into a single reversed quantum pulse. Unity transmitted the plan to the surviving Guardian vessels. Their response was immediate, total commitment to this final gambit. Maya, can you make the Void understand what we're trying to do? The communications officer closed her eyes, focusing all her training on the patterns in the darkness. It understands. But Captain, even if this works, we'll be at the center when reality changes. Sarah nodded grimly. Better to risk everything than live in a galaxy of fear. Humanity didn't come this far to back down now. She opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, prepare for quantum pulse on my mark. The Void's presence intensified, not fighting now but waiting, perhaps hoping. Around them, the Azure fleet moved into precise formation, their ships glowing with accumulated power. Quantum reverse calculated, Harrison reported. Ready on your command. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of two universes resting on this moment. Send the pulse, now. Reality shattered. The quantum anchors released their power in a single reality-bending wave. The Void's darkness met it not with resistance, but with something like recognition. For a moment that existed outside of time, two forms of existence touched and merged. When awareness returned, Sarah found herself standing on a bridge that defied description. Parts of it remained solid, human and Azure technology working in harmony. But other sections seemed to exist in a state that human minds couldn't fully process, neither matter nor energy, but something in between. Status report, she called out, her voice sounding strange in the altered space. We're here, Rodriguez answered, checking systems that somehow worked in both states of reality. The ship is holding together, though I'm not sure how. Through the viewport, they saw something unprecedented. Space where light and darkness coexisted. Stars shone with both normal and impossible energy, creating a vista more beautiful than anything in either universe. Unity approached, the Guardian's form now shifting between crystalline solidity and void-like fluidity. Through their link, Sarah felt not just triumph but profound joy. After eons of conflict, they had found not victory but transcendence. Maya's console lit up with patterns that danced between states. Captain, the effect is spreading. Everywhere the cascade reached, it's creating spaces like this. Zones where both forms of reality can exist. The Void, Sarah asked. Still present, but changed. It's not consuming anymore. It's creating. Harrison's readings confirmed it. The entity they had faced was now using its power not to unmake reality, but to help shape these new spaces where both forms of existence could flourish. The Azure fleet regrouped around them, their ships now beautiful hybrids of light and shadow. Beyond them, the galaxy was transforming, not ended but reborn. Everywhere the quantum cascade had reached, new possibilities were taking root. Message from Earth Sector, Maya announced, her voice thick with emotion. They're reporting similar transformations. The spiral pattern, it's becoming a network of these hybrid zones, a bridge between universes. Sarah stood at her command post, watching the impossible become reality. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge, not with weapons or walls, but with understanding and innovation. They had found a way not just to survive, but to help an ancient enemy become something new. Unity, she said softly, I think we're going to need a new name for these spaces. Void doesn't really fit anymore. The Guardian's response filled her mind with warmth and possibility. Through their link, a new term emerged, one that combined Azure concepts of harmony with human ideas of frontier and discovery. The blend, Sarah announced to her crew, where what was separate becomes whole. As the stellar horizon cruised through space that defied traditional physics, its crew began the work of documenting and understanding their new reality. They had changed the universe in ways even the Eternal Guardians hadn't imagined possible. But more importantly, they had proven something about humanity itself. When faced with cosmic horror, they had chosen to understand rather than simply destroy. When given the chance to end an ancient enemy, they had instead found a way to help it heal. The stars shone with both normal and impossible light, creating patterns that would inspire explorers and scientists for generations to come. The age of isolation was over. The age of transformation had begun. And humanity, standing beside their azure allies and their one-time enemy, was ready to help guide the galaxy into whatever wonders waited ahead.